thank you so much for your questions. There were loads, so we're going to try and answer some more of them here. So take it away. Okay, I have always loved the weather. When I was 14, my geography teacher, Mr. Hannon, taught us about the jet stream, and he got the girls in a straight line and the boys in a straight line, and he said bump into each other as you run across the classroom. By the time we got to the other side, we were in a wiggly line, and he was like, that is how the jet stream works. Warm air hitting cold air. And that day I was like, that's what I want to do. So I phoned the Met Office that day. They said you need GCSEs in like sciences, then you need maths, physics, A-level, then to go to university and do meteorology. So that's what I did. So just, 14 and one lesson. Okay, I think if you love weather, that is the first and foremost, the most important thing is to just be passionate about it. If you're taking pictures of clouds, Google them and see what they are, gather those weather books. There's like a cloud atlas from the Cloud Appreciation Society that tells you all the clouds that are out there. I follow lots of cool people on Twitter and Instagram from around the UK and around the world. I actually have a World Weather WhatsApp group of other meteorologists where we share our stories of what's happening in our country. I think it's just being on the ball of the latest things happening in weather, the latest things happening in climate change. I try and make like little videos on Instagram to tell people what's happening and why, and I think that's the big thing. Why is it cold? Why is it wet? When's it going to change? If you can answer those nuggets for people, it keeps them engaged. There are so many best parts of my job. I love that I get to talk about the things that I'm most passionate about every day. Waking up people in their houses, telling them about the weather when they leave the house, what it's going to be like when they come home. That's just pure joy. But also, increasingly talking more about extreme weather, severe weather, climate change, making sure that I can add that in, because the more we talk about climate change, the more people understand, and then we can make decisions to make change. I've got to go on some amazing trips. I went to NASA to find out about female astronauts and the endeavour to send the first woman into space. We're going to bring that to all our audiences. And I went to Svalbard to talk about the impacts of climate change there, and to talk about that, something that unless you watched an Arctic documentary you wouldn't see, but we had bite-sized snippets on the show. So I just love the diversity of everything I get to do. If I wasn't a weather presenter, so my A-levels were maths, physics and art. So I've always loved art. That's my other side of things. I like being really creative. And actually, when I used to work at the BBC Weather Centre, everybody who was a broadcast meteorologist also had something very arty and creative. They either played a musical instrument, they painted, they acted. So it's funny how it's like I do a science, but it's quite creative science. But if I didn't do that, I would share my other passion, which is sweets. This jar is for Ben Shepherd because he steals my sweets. I have two jars, one for me, one for him. I just would sit and eat sweets all day if I could. So after I got my job at the Met Office training on the forecaster training programme, after I went to university and did physics and meteorology, I trained as a forecaster. Then my first role was at Cardiff Weather Centre, doing things that you wouldn't even think that need forecasting. So for energy companies, if it's really cloudy, people put lights on. If it's really cold, they need more heating. For the gritters, if it's going to be a really icy night, they need to put the grit on certain routes. So I did lots of public-facing weather forecast, local radio, hill walking. And then my next job was at Bryce Norton at RAF Base, forecasting for pilots flying around the UK and all over the world, which meant my world weather increased massively. And then my next job was at the BBC Weather Centre, where I came here. Ooh, my favourite weather word or term. Right, this is not the answer to your question. My favourite word is haberdashery. This thing is a really nice word. It just rolls up the tongue nicely. Oh, my favourite weather word or term? I don't know. Though I do have a joke for you. This is not answering the question. Okay. Where do a group of meteorologists hang out for a drink?
Where do meteorologists hang out for a drink?
The ISO bar. Move on. Okay, I'm actually quite claustrophobic, so I would love to be able to go to the moon or to Mars or to anywhere into space. I'm not sure if I could physically be in the rocket. I've actually sat in the Orion capsule that will be going to the moon when I did my trip to NASA, but they didn't close the doors. So it's like yes and no. If it was really actually happening, I'd have to say definite maybe, don't rule that out. I love dancing. I would love to do Strictly. My daughter loves watching it with me as well, and all the outfits and all of the dresses. So yeah, I'm a babe. Okay, my favourite type of cloud is called a Kelvin-Helmholtz wave, and it kind of looks like a crest of a wave going in the sky. And I actually saw it years ago when I was on a weather live in Cornwall. It'd been a really long week, I was probably quite tired. But I remember looking up at the sky and going, oh my goodness, that looks like a Kelvin-Helmholtz wave. And I phoned the Met Office. You need instability in the upper atmosphere, and we had that. All the right conditions were needed. So I saw it, I filmed it, I told presenters, and we showed it on the show. And I was excited / emotional and cried a little bit about it because it was just the joy of seeing something I'd only ever read about that's really rare to see. So yeah, that is my favourite cloud. So yeah, I mean, there's loads of clouds, they're all very cool. You may not know, there are 9 different types of cumulus clouds. So type 1 is the very small fluffy one called cumulus, and type 9 is the very big one, the cumulonimbus. There's like a whole atlas of all the clouds. So fall in love with that, you fall in love with weather. Thank you for your questions. I hope that you learned something other than the fact that I love clouds and sweets.